Who doesn't know Tempe? This golden block of protein is more than just a food, is it? Our national pride and identity, consumed by over 280 million Indonesians every single day. But little do people know that behind every slice of tempe we enjoy today lies a massive irony. This iconic dish, the very face of Indonesian culture, culinary heritage, simply cannot exist without the hand of farmers in the Americas and the volatile price swings of the global markets. Let's look at the hard number. To feed the nation, Indonesia requires nearly 2.7 million tons of soybean annually. However, local agricultures only produce a mere fraction of that, around 230,000 tons. This staggering gap creates the ultimate trap, a 90% absolute dependency on imported soybean, primarily from the United States, and this creates a dangerous long and complex distribution channels. The journey begins in the vast agricultural fields of the American Midwest. The harvest is loaded onto massive bulk carriers crossing the Pacific Ocean, entering Indonesia through Tanjung Priok under the control of a few mega importers, and passing through distributor before finally trickling down to over 100,000 MSME and landing in our local traditional market as a tempe. When you rely 90% on a single foreign source, you don't just import the soybean, you import all of their risk. This long, complex distribution chain makes the Indonesian market incredibly fragile. And between 2020 and 2023, that fragile was violently exposed. Look at this data anomaly. Our actual import volume was decreasing, yet the amount of money we spent skyrocketed to 1.63 billion US dollars. We were literally paying significantly more just to get less. As a direct result, domestic soybean prices erupted, skyrocketing from a stable 7,000 rupiah to over 12,500 rupiah per kilogram. But what exactly triggered this massive global price explosion? But why did this global shock devastate our local MSME so severely, and what happened? So, to understand the price spike, we must first look at the sky. Between 2020 and 2022, the La Nina weather anomaly struck the agriculture in the South Americas. Extreme drought and unpredictable weather patterns severely damaged soybean crops, with harvest yield dropping significantly. The global supply of soybean was suddenly suffocated at its very source. But nature wasn't the only culprit. Halfway across the world, geopolitical tension erupted. The Russia-Ukraine war sent massive shockwave through global market. While they don't export soybean to Indonesia, Russia and Ukraine are the world powerhouse for energy and fertilizer. As a war broke out, global fertilizer price skyrocketed, drastically inflating the production costs for soybean farmers in America. With supply suffocated by weather and farming costs exploding due to war, the market faced its final fatal blow: China. Recovering from their own domestic agricultural crisis, China initiated an aggressive, massive stockpiling campaign. As the world's largest buyer, they swept up millions of tons of global soybean reserves to secure their domestic food and animal feed supplies. This created a ruthless bidding war, and for Indonesian importers, it meant paying top dollar just to secure whatever was left. And weaving through all this crisis was the catalyst that started it all: the COVID-19 pandemic. Global lockdown triggered an unprecedented logistic paralysis. A massive shortage of shipping containers left global trade completely gridlocked. Ocean freight rates skyrocketed to historical high. Shipping a single container of soybean across the Pacific suddenly cost 5 to 10 times more. And this astronomical logistic bill was directly added to the price tag of every soybean arriving in Indonesia. When this explosive landed price hit the domestic market, the domino effect was devastating. The massive importers passed the cost down, leaving 100,000 vulnerable Tempe MSME to absorb the fatal blow. Unable to afford raw materials, artisans initiated nationwide production strikes, market emptied, and for those who tried to survive, their only option was shrinkflation. slicing the tempe dangerously thin just to keep the price affordable for the working class. The domestic market was completely broken, facing a national crisis. The government was forced to step in through the State Logistic Agency. An emergency bailout was deployed, a subsidy of 1,000 rupiah per kilogram to rescue the dyeing industry. But make no mistake, the subsidy was a massive fiscal burden. It was merely a temporary painkiller on a deeply fractured system. It bought us time, but it didn't cure the underlying disease. A system completely paralyzed by its 90% dependency on global forces. The Tempe irony is a massive wake-up call for Indonesia. We cannot continue to put band-aids on a bleeding supply chain. To protect our national pride and secure our protein sovereignty, we must stop reacting to global shock and start rebuilding our local resilience. How do we break free from this 90% trap? How do we redesign a supply chain that protected both the MSME and the consumers? The answer